Welcome back to Hardware Nexus. It's happened. It has happened. I finally have Steve from Gamers Nexus here. So thank you for joining me. And we've
merged.
We have merged.
We are in the same room.
I don't know what that means for your reality, but things are getting wild over here. So we have some interesting topics that I would like to discuss with Steve. But before we do, the Hardware Unboxed Computex coverage is brought to you by MSI and Thermal Grizzly. Check out MSI's all-new gaming slim graphics cards. They're thinner and lighter, allowing for hassle-free compatibility and installation, while still delivering award-winning performance that MSI is known for. Included is the latest Tri-Frozer 3 cooler in either black or white using Torx 5.0 fans, a nickel-plated copper base plate with up to 8 core pipes to ensure optimal heat dissipation and ultra-quiet operation. Enjoy ray tracing and DLSS 3 with Nvidia's Ada architecture, and tap into elite-level system responsiveness through Reflex, giving you the competitive edge where it matters in-game. Learn more about the all-new MSI GeForce RTX 40 series gaming slim graphics cards via links in the description. Also, supporting our Computex trip is Thermal Grizzly and their new Cryo Sheet, a high-performance graphene thermal pad that contains no liquid and therefore isn't subject to the kind of degradation seen with traditional thermal pastes, such as drying out, for example. It offers outstanding thermal conductivity, simple installation, and extreme longevity. So for more information, please check the links in the video description. All right, Steve, first question.
Yes.
Hope you're ready.
I am.
What do you think about the GeForce brand, I guess GeForce GPUs, taking a back seat to all this AI nonsense? And I've said it for you.
Yes. First of all, clearly money is the answer. And I don't know how much of it is like, so there's definitely some real money in there, but there's also a lot of imaginary investor money, you know, of like.
That's interesting, yeah.
Like I mean, it's liquid from someone, but it's kind of, I don't know. Let me just preface this. I don't know what I'm talking about with economics. I'm making all of this up.
Good.
My feeling is that it really seems like we've gotten to that almost like tulip mania like level, and there's absolutely real use cases, but currently it's like the crypto stuff, and I don't remember examples from years ago from other things like this. It's just shove it into everything. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, GeForce takes backseat. I think from the DIY PC side of things, really my concern is just how does that evolve for the lower end? Because it really feels like Nvidia is migrating more and more towards super expensive, or at least kind of, you know, like the Super Series, right? It's kind of high.
Yeah. If you can't afford it, tough luck type deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, you will have 8 gigabytes of VRAM indefinitely.
Yes, and you'll be happy with it.
Yes, you'll enjoy that.
Yeah, so I mean, what about you? So GeForce taking a backseat, I think that is like completely valid to say.
Yeah, it's exactly what's happening, and as you say, there's reasons for it like that are out of our control. So it's like, it's sort of separating our feelings about it from the reality of the situation.
Right.
So when we were talking about this with the team the other day, so you've got an RTX 4090, which for gamers, that is a hideously expensive product, and people are sort of outraged by that $1,600 US MSRP that was $2,000 for a lot of that. Yeah. So that's hideously expensive, but it's actually really cheap in terms of what they're selling these wafers for once they're cut up into dies, because what is it, an H100 accelerators, like, is that $40,000 US?
If I remember, so I don't remember which one was what the price was most recently, but I think the numbers I remember from that, whatever the bank was that kind of published some findings, so it's like 30, 40K for the lower end one.
Yes.
And then the higher end, depending on configuration, was like 80 plus or something. So
that's wild. And I think the actual portion of the wafer that those dies are taking up is only like 30% more than an RTX 4090. I believe that it's something like that. It's not.
Well, on stage, I don't know if you caught this part or not. I saw your video thumbnail and title. So maybe, but on stage when Jensen at one point he picked up it looked like a 4080 Super, and he said something along the lines of, "This is a gamer GPU, but as we all know, like this is a real GPU."
Yeah.
And showed the, it just
get that toy out of here. It disgusts me.
I don't know how much he meant it that way, but it definitely felt like, ooh, ow, like gamers, gross.
I mean, there is some disdain there. Like they're like, you guys are always unhappy, you're always whinging, and your stuff's worth nothing. Yeah. Get it out of here. Like, there is a bit of that going on. And look, when I talk about 30% more wafer space, there's like 80 gigabytes of HBM memory there and interposers and things. So it's more expensive to produce, but it's nowhere near what they're charging for it. So from a business side of things, shareholders' perspective, like I get it. Like I get why they've gone in that direction, and
well,
it's unavoidable.
Let me ask this: are we just entitled?
Oh, God, Steve.
Care about me, Nvidia? I'm looking up not because, but they were actually staying there. So, Nvidia, I know you're watching me from your ivory tower. You're gonna need a B-roll shot of that now.
They have some sort of AI.
Yeah. So, sorry for creating B-roll work for your team. Is it entitled though?
Oh, I mean, what are you doing to me, Steve?
I'm just being Reddit. I'm just preempting the comments.
Oh boy, there's a lot to unpack here. So I mean, gamers probably feel like they helped get Nvidia to where they are.
That's great.
So I think to say they're being entitled is obviously unfair and harsh, because if you've supported a company, especially I'll be serious for a second. If you've been buying GeForce GPUs and you're like, I only buy GeForce, Radeon sucks for reasons that make sense to me.
Right.
I'm buying GeForce every generation, and you do that, and then you get to a point where you realize this company's like showing these GPUs you've been buying and loving and cherishing all these years, and like, cheap crap, get $40,000. I can see why that would annoy you deeply, in a sense that may make you appear entitled to be able to have this new great architecture delivered to you. So I think from that perspective, it's warranted, really.
I think that's probably the best answer I could think of for that, where it's because it's not even your phrasing, you soften the phrasing a little bit, but like the helped them get here. Yeah. I think it's like got them here, Like,
sure, yep, that's fair.
For the longest time, it was gaming. You look at Jensen left SGI, and when he left, it was because SGI, to my understanding of the situation, didn't think consumer GPUs were realistic. Mm-hmm. And so here comes Nvidia, and consumer GPUs build the company they are today. So that answer makes sense to me.
Yeah, it does. I don't know how else to put it really, but yeah, that's fair enough. All right, we'll move on to another question. I'll just read this one off my phone because I don't want to mess this one up. So the next segment I want to talk about, how do you think companies are evolving to deal with YouTubers? Not to put us on a pedestal or anything, right, but
not to put us on a bigger pedestal.
Sure, there's been incidents, so right. I think you know what I mean by that. Yeah. And we've had certain companies, I'll say it like ASRock, blacklisted both of us for a point of time. I don't know where you're at with them, but
I don't either.
No insight there. Yeah. I think it was some period last year they just reached out again. Hey, so communication opened back up, and so that was interesting. And then obviously we've seen stuff, especially with you guys, with companies like ASUS, EK. I'm not asking you to talk specifically on any of them, but just in general, how do you think they're evolving or changing, or if they even are?
I think the first thing I would look at is like, is it different from written tech media? And I think conceptually it shouldn't be, but it does feel like it sometimes.
I mean, you wrote before as well, right?
Yeah.
And I wrote for many years before, and it was hard to even convey those stories in written form with all the information and video and images you want to show. It's harder to paint the picture, and then you just don't end up getting the reach you get. Like, articles don't really go viral, do they, in the way that videos go viral? So I think that's a big component of it. Yeah,
that's a big one. And then, so how have they evolved? I mean, I think for ASRock, if I remember correctly, it was like Z3, it might have been 3 or 5 for us, where they were really upset about us.
Okay.
For VRM discussion of some kind.
Yep.
And if I remember correctly, I think we had like an actually pretty positive piece around the same time. And then we dropped the negative one. So positive was first, and then negative. And they're like, all right, that's it. We didn't know it worked this way. Like, no more. So I don't know if that's like an evolution for YouTube or not, but that is not the correct way to evolve, because then it just, for me, we try to stay, as I'm sure you do, as objective or neutral as we can, even with a bad relationship with a company. Sure. Yep. But when there's a bad relationship, you can't completely separate it, and it starts to, it will influence how you look at the problem. So if the problem I'm having with the company is, I think there's a chance they're misleading me here, and there's a history of them doing that in the same way, obviously, you know, you look at it differently.
Yeah, you're hesitant to recommend their products because if they're doing that to you, it's like, how well do they look after their loyal customers?
That's the concern, is because it's like, it's, you know, it's, if the company is willing to mislead media, and it's able to try and kind of twist or change a story, then it does come down to how do they treat everybody, especially processes. So not just the product level stuff, where product marketing is one thing, but the support after it is the big thing we're concerned about now. How are they responding? I'll give a couple concrete examples. So I'll say for the case industry, this wasn't like exposing or whatever a behavior. It was just talking about product design decisions. I will say that over the past years, it feels like as users have become more focused on the thermals of the product, and as CPUs, GPUs have gotten hotter, so they need to care more, it actually does seem like the case companies have responded to feedback and criticism.
Yep.
And you know, specifically at shows, you meet with the designers, you realize it's maybe one person who designed this thing, and they're genuinely listening to what people say, and they're genuinely trying to improve on it. And the best interactions for me are when those designers say, hey, we took this feedback and this feedback, we disagree with you on this, here's good reasons why. You know, like that's how the relationship should be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because then we can adjust, okay, maybe these are actually reasonable. So I'd say that's a concrete example of something good, but there's plenty of instances where that doesn't happen.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
with the cases, we've seen a similar thing with the motherboard VRAM. I feel like you carried the torch with that with BuildZoid initially.
Sure.
And we
Yeah.
sort of picked it up a bit.
Definitely.
And obviously ASRock's back now because they realized that wasn't the blacklisting Harbor Unboxed, and Gamers Nexus probably wasn't the play for sales, and I think
Right.
they saw that. So they've said to me at the show, like the B650 MHDV, which we recommended, cheap motherboard, they're like, we can't sell it quick enough. I actually asked about it because it was one of the only B650 boards they had on show, and I thought that's weird. They've got their like most entry level B650 board at Computex.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's our best seller. It's a great board.
I mean, that's good, you
Yeah.
know, because a lot of times the companies will only show the best stuff.
But what I've seen them doing, or at least it looks like that's what they're doing, they're now launching all the non-trash boards at the entry level. And they're saying, yeah, and then they wait a couple of months once the roundups are done, and they sneak out the discrete MOSFET boards that are power limited and run like crap, and then we have to buy them all and retest them. So that's not a great thing to see, but it's a strategy that I think that it will work, but it's not going to. We'll get you.
Yeah, no, changing stuff, or even like changing a product and then slightly modifying the name, you know, is not good either, because then you get the doubling up of, we technically changed the name, right? Like the 1030 with
The
DDR4.
V2.
Yeah, right. And so it's like you put D4 at the end of this huge SKU, technically different name, but super misleading. So
Yeah, so I get the impression they are slowly evolving, if you can put it that way. They're working out that putting their head in the sand or just ignoring that feedback or criticism is not the play. That doesn't help at all.
I think there's genuine hope. So the biggest change I've seen, I'll use Intel as an example here. Intel is such a huge company, and it behaves in huge company ways, like traditional huge company. So you look at Nvidia, it's really interesting where Jensen's almost like become this rock star, you know, like that. We're in this era of the concept of a rock star CEO instead of a boring dude who is maybe kind of a business background, right? So
The silicon nerd's now a rock star.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, and you look at the keynote, you look at, I mean, I'm sure you've seen like what he's gotten popular for here, and he's definitely kind of rock star status, but Intel was so traditional in it was very reserved. It was very conservative with who it might provide to put on camera. For the longest time, they were scared of having discussions on camera. Not scared in like they've done something wrong, but like the biggest change I've seen for them in terms of responding to the YouTube environment specifically, and not just written, is they've finally, at least with us, gotten comfortable with putting engineers on camera. Because for years we've said like, hey, we'd love to talk about this thing. It can't be a marketing person. Or if it is, they have to be really technical, you know? And so they've gotten good about, okay, Tom Peterson will come talk about this in-depth stuff. And Nvidia has one of their guys doing latency discussion. Malcolm does thermal and acoustic. I would say that's the biggest positive change, where they've realized for us, and I think probably for you, good media will try to compartmentalize stuff like an engineering discussion from a product review.
Yeah.
It's like if I hate the recent product, that doesn't mean we can't talk about engineering, right? So I would say that's a positive change.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, I think I won't take up any more of Steve's time here because you've probably got 10,000 other things you're running off.
There's two Steve's times.
Mostly this Steve's time, GN Steve. I'm going to go put my feet up, let the editors do their thing, have a drink.
That's the
You
life.
seem to just run around.
Oh yeah.
So I'm impressed to find, it's been about 3 Computexes now. I've tried to pin you down.
I encountered you at I think it was the MSI thing.
For the first...
For like laptops the first time.
Yeah.
So that I met you at that. That was a massive waste of time at the event other than meeting you and a couple other people.
MSI's our sponsor. It was a great time. We had a lovely
It was great. I loved that event. It was the best event.
Best of times.
I'll take a cut of that later.
Yeah, you were running away from the event, only briefly said hi as you were running. I think you were so excited by what you saw.
That's right.
That you had to get out of there because you wanted to go report on it.
Oh yeah, immediately.
Okay, good. We recovered
Yes.
there. That's
Yeah.
good job. So yes, no, good to catch up with you. Good to film this segment, and obviously we filmed something on Steve's channel as well. Gamers Nexus Steve. So not talking about myself in third person. Sometimes I do that.
Right.
I'm that way inclined.
It's natural. Yeah. When I've said that, I don't know if I've said this in a video or not. Every now and then, so I'll pull up one of your videos like about the Intel Power stuff because I wasn't covering that, so I was following yours.
Yep.
And I was scrolling through the comments, and there were some comments that they weren't being particularly nice or reasonable towards you.
No.
And so I like walked away and I came back and the comments were still on my screen. I was like, what? I didn't say that. And I realized it was on your video. So.
Yeah, well, if you guys want to say stuff that I said on Steve's channel, direct from now on, all negative feedback on our channel.
Great.
Post on Gamers Nexus. And that would be good for my mental health, maybe.
Yeah, it'll be great for mine.
Sorry. So this will probably be the last time that I get together with Steve. No. But yeah, that's pretty much going to do it for this one. I had a lot of fun. Hopefully you guys enjoy the content, and we'll see you in some more soon.
Goodbye.